Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about Cancer rising. First, I'm going to give you some background characteristics about what the rising is and what it looks like on a Cancer. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about the Descendant, so the 7th house, and what that means for relationships for a Cancer rising person. And then I'm going to give you a really good example of a celebrity chart of a Cancer rising, and this is probably it is the favorite celebrity that I was able to find, and I was able to learn so much about Cancer, so much so that I'm going through a current Cancer love affair. So Cancer rising is ruled by the moon, and the moon becomes their chart ruler. So moon and moon things are going to be very important for Cancer rising people. So let's talk about how the ascendant came to be. So when you were growing up, all the people that were around you in your environment, they were sort of creating your ascendant for you. And I like to call the ascendant kind of like your little spacesuit. And the reason for that is because the ascendant was created especially so that you could survive in the environment that you were growing up in as a kid. So throughout your formative years, you really got the message that you were really going to thrive if you had Cancer qualities. So in order to have those Cancer qualities, you really had to leave behind in the 12th house all the Gemini qualities, and all of those get left behind and they become part of your subconscious. And this becomes interesting if you have 12th house planets, but in today's video I'm not going to talk about 12th house planets. I'm going to leave that for another one. But essentially, that was a message that you received when you were a little kid growing up. You won't survive here as a Gemini, so you really have to come out here and have all of these Cancer traits. So all the people that were around you I like to think of them as like putting little patches on your little spacesuit. And they were like, you're going to need this quality, you're going to need this one, this characteristic, this one. And all of those things were carefully placed on there in order to make sure that you had the best opportunities of thriving in this environment. And this environment is, your world, your new life here on Earth. So what did you leave behind when you left behind Gemini in the 12th house? So you left behind the openness and curiosity of Gemini, and you traded it for the protectiveness of Cancer. So whereas Gemini is open to the entire world and is curious about absolutely everything and will go down any road that comes their way, Cancer is more careful. Cancer is more about protecting themselves and protecting that soft little Cancer insides they have. So you traded that openness and you traded it for protectiveness. So for whatever reason, your environment told you like, hey, all that curiosity isn't going to work here. You need to protect yourself and protect your sensitivities. You also traded intellectual receptivity for emotional receptivity. So whereas Gemini is very intellectually stimulated and any curious thing that comes up is going to get their mind working, Cancer is very stimulable too, but they're stimulable for emotional things. So Cancer has these little antennas that really keep them tuned in to people's emotions around them. And for whatever reason, your environment told you, you're going to need these antennas to let you know how everybody's feelings are going on, how everybody's feelings are doing in your environment, in your house, your grandma, your grandpa, whoever it was that was around you. There was a reason for you to have these emotional antennas on at all times, Cancer rising. And even though all the water signs have this emotional receptivity, Cancer specifically, I find it very interesting that Cancer, because the archetype is the mother, so Cancer doesn't just pick up on them. So Pisces feels all the things that are in the room, and they don't really do anything with it. They're just feeling. They could be flooded with feeling. And even if they want to do something, they might not act because they're so overtaken by feelings. Cancer, on the other hand, Cancer has the need to take care of those feelings. And they have a very strong mothering behavior to them, and their persona is very much, and even if you're a man or a woman, this is true if you're a man or a woman, you can tell how people feel. You just know how people feel what they need, and you can see very deep down in them. I connect the sign of Cancer with self-esteem, and for that reason I feel that Cancer can really see the self-esteem issues of other people. They see people's emotions and they want to do something about it. They want to help people, they want to nurture people, they want to make people feel better and feel good. They're very nurturing. They left behind in the 12th house the need for intellectual stimulation, and they traded that for a need for love. Cancer really needs love, and the reason for this, I believe, is because the sign of Cancer is related to mothers and really is connected to that archetype of the mother. And think about how a mother comes into being. A mother only exists because she gave birth. So she gave birth, and that transformed her into the mother. So part of being a mother is part of being in a pair. So it's the mother and the baby. So because of this, I really feel that it's necessary for Cancer people to have love in their lives. And this doesn't necessarily mean that they absolutely need a partner, even though they might feel that they do. You could give love to a pet, you could give love to your friends, but that's besides the point. The point is that Cancer really needs love, and they don't really care about all that intellectual stuff that Gemini does, unless you have a lot of Gemini planets. But love is the thing that really drives Cancers and the reason why they wake up every day. To give love and to get love from others. It's very important that Cancer gets love. They're not just doing it selflessly for no reason like maybe a Pisces does. Pisces just loves because they have no other option. They just love because they do. But Cancer loves in order to get love. It's very symbiotic with Cancer, and that symbiosis is very important, because if they're not getting the love in return, they will get bitter. So whenever you're in your room and you're being comfortable, you're maybe eating potato chips, watching like K-dramas, Cancer rising, you are comfortable and you're not really wearing that Ascendant. You're not wearing your little spacesuit. But let's just say somebody that you don't know walks into the room. So you put on that spacesuit, and immediately you turn on all those characteristics that are part of your social personality. So what is that social personality for Cancer rising? So for Cancer rising, as I've already said, they're going to be careful. They're going to be observant. They might be a little bit shy, because they have to see how the other person is going to affect their energy, is going to affect the energy of the room, and is going to affect them, period. They want to know, is this person a nice person? Is this person friendly? Is this person sweet? Is this person mean? Cancer rising people is always on the lookout for danger of being hurt. This is very important, and they don't just look for themselves being hurt. They don't just look out for themselves, they also look out for others, and especially the people they care about. I like to think of their little mother senses coming on, and they're just like, what does this person need? Is this person hurting? Does this person need a hug? Is this person hungry? Does this person need love? Like the person that walked into the room. Those are the questions they're going to ask themselves. And as I said, they're also going to be like, is this person going to hurt me? Because they always have to protect themselves. Protect, protect, protect. So your spacesuit has, a helmet, and that helmet has a lens, and that lens has a filter. Every single sign has a specific filter. And I like to think that for Cancer, the filter is very sweet and romantic. And Cancer is a romantic sign, and they're very nostalgic. I would imagine that it would have like just little twinkling lights and things that remind them of their childhood, of sweeter, more innocent times. And because of this, I think that the way that Cancer sees the world is in need of love and nurturing. I think that Cancer sees all the places in the world that are cold and harsh, and they want to fill those places with love. They see the need that people have for nurturing, because don't we all, at the end of the day, who doesn't love to be nurtured? Everybody loves being nurtured because it is a very natural thing to be, because we were all babies once. So Cancer sees the need that the world has for all of this and really wants to provide this. Cancer has that big mother loving energy that wants to just fill people's needs and fill people's voids. And this is dangerous, Cancer, because remember that you're just a person and you can't fill everybody, and you can't be everybody's mother. You have to also take care of yourself. Cancer can be rather selfless in this way. So as I said, that filter is through which you see the world out into the 7th house. So you're in the 1st house, that's the house of me, and you see the world out in the 7th house. The 7th house is a house of others. So how do people from the 7th house see you, Cancer rising? So they see you as shy, they see you as gentle, sweet, they see you as nurturing, intuitive. That mother's knowing is very deep with a Cancer rising person. They see you as moody, so the moon really directly affects you when you're a Cancer rising. People also see you as family oriented. Having close family bonds is very important to you, Cancer rising. And if perhaps you don't have a family or you don't have a large family, you're going to try at least to make a family with people that you love and that care about you, that you take care of and that take care of you. Home is very important for Cancer rising people, for Cancers period. And making a home, I'm sorry, but I have a hair in my eye. The home is very important because the home is a place to retreat to, a place that is safe and where you can just let go and you don't have to protect yourself. That's why Cancers are so home oriented. And I find that people with a lot of Cancer in their chart or important Cancer placements have a really just cozy way of decorating their home, and having a cozy home is important for Cancer people, period. People also see you as a romantic, sentimental, and nostalgic. And I know all my friends who, there's a difference between being sentimental and being romantic, and I'm gonna make a video about that later. If you're interested, let me know in the comments. But also, another important thing, Cancer rising, whenever you're out of balance, and I should have included this for all of the signs, but I forgot, but this is one that I remember that pops in my head a lot. Whenever you're out of balance, Cancer rising, you do appear to be very defensive, and you can be overly sensitive to criticism and just on the attack when you sense that people are being critical of you or being harsh, and you can appear defensive. But obviously we all have our bad sides. We can all fall out of balance and exhibit our characteristics to the more extreme sense, and this is just what happens to Cancer. Lastly, remember that the ascendant can be modified by any planets that you have in your first house or by any aspects being made to your ascendant. So if this doesn't sound exactly like you, make sure that you look at other planets that you might have in your first house, or look at any aspects being made to your ascendant. So now let's talk about the Descendant and the relationship needs. So the Descendant ends up being in the 7th house, and as I said earlier, the you house, the me house, is the first house, and the 7th house is the house of other people. So it is how you see the world, how you see other people. And you know how sometimes you could have there are some qualities that you just don't like in other people, but you know that saying that like the things that you don't like are in other people or things that you have in yourself. That is how the 1st and the 7th house operate. So things that we might repress and project onto others that we say we don't like, and we're just like, oh, we don't like this quality, we don't like that quality, we kind of put them in the 7th house. And so in relationships, that's really where you get to explore that like naughty side that you don't really let yourself be. It doesn't necessarily have to be a naughty side. In this case, it really isn't. So the things that Cancer rising needs in a relationship are Capricorn things. So Cancer rising, even though they're very romantic and nostalgic and sentimental, in relationships, what they really need is material safety and stability. Because they are so soft and tender, they need somebody who's going to be tough, who isn't going to be sentimental, who isn't going to be overly emotional or emotional, period. They need somebody who is more concerned with, you know, achievement, having material possessions, taking care of the home and the family altogether. Capricorn and Cancer are very family oriented. Obviously, it's like the family axis. So they need somebody who a little bit helps them to learn to toughen up a bit. Somebody who they feel takes care of them altogether, either emotionally, who's just like a shoulder to cry on and is your rock, Cancer, or you want somebody who is going to help you toughen up a little bit, remind you that you could be tough too, that you're not just soft, you're not just emotional, that you also can have a tough side to you, Cancer rising. Also someone to push you to accomplish your goals, someone who is themselves goal oriented, and somebody who can keep you on a steady routine despite having, you know, your emotional ups and downs, Cancer rising. Now let's get into the celebrity example. And first I want to say that the first thing that I noticed when I was looking for a Cancer rising celebrity is that all of the women who were Cancer rising were so beautiful. And I was just like, wow, just a bunch of hotties over here. And I didn't know that was a Cancer rising thing, but it makes sense because the moon is so feminine. But because I noticed that so many celebrities who had Cancer rising really ended up having tragic endings or tragic lives, I decided that I'm gonna do 2, because I couldn't just pick one. I couldn't just do Vincent van Gogh and just make it all sad. I couldn't do that. I'm sorry. I'm Sagittarius. I want to be optimistic. But definitely there's the potential to be so focused on your emotions that you really get swept up in the currents of them. But this is a little warning, Cancer. Don't let that happen to you. I know how that feels, but don't let it happen to you. There's a lot of moody artists in this category. So we're going to talk about Van Gogh, the Dutch post-impressionist painter. He made 860 paintings, and what I found was so interesting was that most of them were painted in the last 2 years of his life. So that's he died when he was like 36, 37 years old. So that is one of those things that is just like, hey, it's never too late to be who you were meant to be, Cancer rising. So his famous Starry Night painting was painted while he was in an insane asylum. He was put there at his own request because he didn't feel ready to emerge after a period of being in a mental hospital. So he had already spent time in a mental hospital because he was going through a lot of depression. And after being in that mental hospital, his brother was getting married, and his brother was like, hey, I want you to come to my wedding. And he was like, no, I just don't feel ready. So he went to another asylum and he painted the Starry Night. I'm gonna put up his chart so that you can see what I'm talking about when I'm talking about his chart. So he actually has, I think the reason why his life ended so tragically was not just because he was a Cancer rising and he was so focused on emotions. I think that it's a combination of him having a Cancer rising and then having that very strong Pisces stellium that he had in the 9th house. So he had Venus, Mars, the midheaven, and Neptune all in Pisces. And all of this energy was where's Jupiter for him? Jupiter's in Sagittarius, conjunct his moon. So moon Jupiter has a tendency to overeat and to do things to have very big feelings because Jupiter makes everything big. And his moon was in Sagittarius, so he did have, it's very interesting because that Sagittarius moon is positive, and you would think that with Jupiter it's going to be a good thing, but he had that heavy water energy with the stellium in Pisces. And because his ascendant is the moon, his ascendant is Cancer and it is the moon, but his ascendant ruler is in the 6th house. And the 6th house is not a great house. I know that in modern astrology, we try to give all of the houses rather positive meanings, but the 6th and the 12th house, they're not the nicest houses, guys. The 6th house is a house of like unsung glories. It's all the work that you do that you don't get credit for. So imagine, he wasn't famous in his lifetime. He wasn't highly successful. He died being unsuccessful. And it's very sad because it's Vincent van Gogh and we know him so well today and we appreciate all of the beautiful paintings that he created, but him in his lifetime, he didn't get to experience that. And don't get discouraged if you have a 6th house chart ruler. That doesn't have to be the case for you, but if we look at his chart, we can see all that heavy Pisces energy, and that moon in the 6th house being his chart ruler does point to some just not a very happy life and not a lot of glory for him in his lifetime. His sun is exalted in Aries, so that's a good thing, and it is in his 10th house. It's a public part of his chart, so he did get his fame eventually. You know, he's super famous now, but it was just during his lifetime, he wasn't going to be well respected because his chart ruler is in the 6th house. It says here that Van Gogh suffered from psychotic episodes and delusions, and even though he worried a lot about his health, 6th house, he drank heavily, and this is very moon Jupiter drinking and trying to numb the feelings and having a lot of big feelings. And lastly, I'm just gonna read this quote that he wrote to his brother that really sounded very Cancer rising to me, and I'll tell you why. He says, I myself am quite absorbed in that immense plain with wheat fields up as far as the hills, boundless as the ocean, delicate yellow, soft green, the delicate purple of a tilled and weeded piece of ground, with the regular speckle of green of flowering potato plants, everything under a sky of delicate tones of blue, white, pink, and violet. I am in a mood of almost too calm, just the mood needed for painting this. So that sounds very Cancer rising to me, because Cancer rising people are very much led by their mood and their emotions. And this is very beautiful if you're a painter or if you're an artist of some kind, but I could see this being troublesome if you have maybe a more traditional or maybe more earthy type of career or occupation. So in order to not end on this kind of depressive or Debbie Downer note, let's look really quickly at Cher's chart, because she also is a rising Cancer. But for comparison, Cher is a rising Cancer with a moon in Capricorn, so that is giving her already some grounding, you know, some earthy qualities to her. And she also has Saturn in the first house, so that stabilizes her a lot. And she, look, if you notice, she doesn't have any Pisces stuff. That doesn't make her overly emotional. She has a Sun in Taurus, Mercury in Taurus, and she has fixed energy. She has fixed energy in her chart. She doesn't have more water in her chart aside from her midheaven and her ascendant. So she's able to do things in that romantic Cancer way, and she's able to depict herself in that romantic Piscean way, but all her planets are really more stable than that. They're really more stable than water. So it's Cher, guys. She's still kicking to this day. She's still making music. I think she's still making music. She's still super famous, and she seems to be doing just fine. So that's the video for today, guys. I hope you liked it. If you did, make sure you give me a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to my channel, subscribe to my channel. I put out astrology videos every single week, and I will see you in the next one.